Welcome to Echoes in the Gallery. I am your host, Susan L. Sistrunk. As a lifelong artist and educator, I am proud to bring you my first original podcast set in a series of volumes. Each episode will air weekly on Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Tonight, in episode 5, The Predicament, we will learn what has become of Gwen. Let us step into the gallery and begin. An acrid smell filled Gwen's nostrils. She felt the bile rise in her throat and struggled to open her eyes. There was something wrong with her arms. They wouldn't move. The air was cold, and she felt her skin crawl with goose flesh. It became apparent her eyes were covered. With bindings on her hand and feet, Gwen felt she was sitting in some sort of office. Someone was in the room. She could hear breath move slowly in and out in an incredibly calm manner, which made the environment static with electricity and fear. Where was she? This must be Ivanov. Otherwise the painting wouldn't be gone. He must have found out. Gwen, you've been acting very badly. Ivanov spoke slowly, with a low tone. After all of their conversations, she would recognize his voice anywhere. What do you think you and Jonathan were doing? Why would you give me a forgery when I hired you to find an original work this time? The forgeries were for me to sell overseas. This was for me, for my personal collection. His voice became more forceful, yet kept the tone low. Gwen felt her heart begin to race. How was she going to get out of this? She couldn't tell him the actual truth. He would kill her. Then he would kill Jonathan. Gwen felt her mind begin to clear somewhat. Jonathan must be looking for her by now. She felt her eye covering being removed. Looking up, Stefan Ivanov stood towering above her small frame bound to the chair. There was a large man standing in the corner holding his hands in front of him, no expression on his face. Ivanov, on the other hand, looked furious. Without warning, he raised his hand, and he punched her right cheek with a closed fist. "What were you thinking, Gwen?" he growled while lowering his face directly in front of hers. She smelled his pungent cologne as the side of her cheek began to swell. Her eyes began watering. This was bad. Where was Jonathan? With his right hand, Ivanov reached forward and closed his hand around her throat. "I should kill you right now for this, but I want my painting, and you are going to get it for me. This is one of the most important acquisitions of my collection." He began to squeeze, and she felt the hot tears flow down her face. Her airway was closing, and Gwen realized he would probably kill her anyway. Suddenly, Ivanov let go and raised his hand, this time slapping her with the back of his hand on the left side. Well, at least he's leveling things out, she thought. She looked up at him. Gwen knew the time to think fast was right now, not a few minutes. She got an idea. "Mr. Ivanov, please listen to me. It's not like this. I would never give you a forgery for your collection. This really is a misunderstanding. We didn't want to involve you in the process of what was to happen to acquire the work you've been looking for. This isn't easy, and the less you know about it, the better. That way no one will suspect you." Ivanov looked down at her. "Well, I think it is time you told me what it is you're up to, if you're giving me a forgery. Or not giving me a forgery. What are you up to?" "The painting is in a private collection. I needed this painting to switch out with the original. Where is it? Hopefully you haven't damaged it." Her head was beginning to pound from the blows from Ivanov. "Where is Jonathan?" "I do not know," Ivanov slowly said. "He was gone when my men went to pick him up. They are looking for him, and when they pick him up, we will see if your stories match. I want my painting. I'm paying you a great deal of money upon delivery. I know that. I'm not going to run. I'm doing what you hired me to do. I need the painting back in order to make the switch in 2 days." "Why 2 days?" He eyed her suspiciously. "Because in 2 days the couple leaves town for Rome on a buying trip. That's my window." Gwen realized she was playing with fire. She was actually surprised how smoothly the lies were rolling off of her tongue. At the moment, all she could think about was saving her life and getting out of there. So your plan is to switch the forgery for the original. How will you gain access? He still looked suspicious. She could tell he was trying to figure out if she was lying. Suddenly, he looked at his man back in the corner. Did you hear something? No, not at all. These were the first man. Start over. No, not at all. These were the first words the man had spoken since Gwen woke up. Go check it out. I don't want any more problems. He turned back to Gwen and smiled. I don't like problems, so you better be telling me the truth. Eric walked out the door. Ivanov was so damn paranoid. He looked down the hall and looked around the corner, which led to the other offices. He heard a door open and a young man walked out. Startled, the man stammered, Oh, hello, I'm just working late. I'm an intern. Do you have an office here? My boss, Eric replied. He's a slave driver and likes to work late hours. Oh, I get it. Well, I'm Ted. Let me know if you need anything, and reached out to shake Eric's hand. Sure thing, Ted. I'm Eric. See you around. With that, he turned and walked back to the office. Damn Ivanov. So paranoid. Always. Gwen stammered. Just let me do what you hired me to do. I will get you your painting, but I do need the other one back to switch it out with the original. It's the only way to do this without raising suspicion. Jonathan heard Gwen's voice patch through and sighed with relief. She was alive. For now, anyway. Sergei crept through the attic crawl space slowly. He had funneled a microphone in through the vent and patched through to Turia's phone. Not really what this function was meant for, but it would work okay. He sent a text to Turia. Can you hear them? It read. Yes, was the short reply. Sergei leaned in on one of the support beams and relaxed for now. He knew the layout of the office because he'd already been up there. Right now they were inside the interior office room across from the kitchen area. He had been running cable all afternoon to acquire the signal from Ivanov's computer. They'd better find a way to get that woman out of there. Gwen looked up at Ivanov. I can understand this misunderstanding and how it may look to you. But listen, this is a very delicate operation. Get me back the painting so that I can get what you have paid us for. I'm going to let you go, for now. But you have 2 days, as you said. And I do not think running about... start over. And do not think about running or trying to steal the painting from me. Eric will drive you home with the forgery. Finish your job. And just so we understand each other. At that moment, Eric walked back into... Start over. At that moment, Eric walked back into the room. Eric, give our lovely Gwen a reminder for me. Eric reached into the back pocket of his jeans and pulled out a knife. Flipping it open, he walked toward Gwen. Her throat began to close up. He caressed the side of her face with the blade and said, Shh, it's okay. He trailed the tip of the knife down her throat to her arm. When he reached her forearm, just above the duct tape holding her to the chair, he dug the blade in deep and sliced. She screamed out and watched the blood drip down her arm onto the floor. When he was done, there was a wavy line at least 1/2 inch deep and 5 inches long on her arm. Okay, Eric, take her home and get her the painting. It should still be in the back of the Escalade. Start over. Okay, Eric, take her home and get her the painting. It should still be in the back of the Escalade. And Gwen, always a pleasure to see you. Make sure you keep that cut. Start over. Make sure you keep that cut clean now. You need to make sure you are able to complete your job. This concludes the 5th episode of Echoes in the Gallery. Please join me, your host, Susan L. Sistrunk, next week for the much-anticipated episode 6, The Truth, where we learn what Gwen and Jonathan have really been plotting. Until then, stay safe and love each other.